and you're not going to act until you're confident, no, you'll never move anywhere in your life if you wait for confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of action.
I like that mediocre millionaire.
And you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
You're laughing, but you've seen them all over social media, and you're like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, but yet they're bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars, in their businesses. And then you've got somebody over here who is completely brilliant, but is just so overwhelmed by the noise and the scarcity and so much fear that it just, they're just like struggling to like capitalize off of their brilliance.
Well, Tyler, welcome to the Unstuck Hour. I'm so excited to have you here. I know we had talked a little bit about your coaching program and just all the wonderful things that you've been doing, but can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. My name is Tyler Ryan Hall. I am the founder of Systemize Your Soul, which is a business coaching program for coaches, and it really helps them turn their heart into expressed messaging and marketing and mechanics so that they can go out there and kind of take the message that is on their heart and turn it into a mission and a movement that's going to serve the world.
Wow. How long did it take you to kind of come up with that messaging? Because it's really powerful, and I feel like it speaks so direct.
A long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Such a long time. It's so interesting. I'm in the season right now of like doing some heavy reflection and just looking at the journey. And I look back and I can go through like Google Docs and old folders, and I can see the seeds of what my program is today. And I realized I've been doing this work for like 8 years. But the actual Systemize Your Soul, the framework, the methodology, all of like the actual coherence just came about a year and a half ago. But it's been about 8 years in the making.
Wow, that's awesome. And I love hearing that too, because so many times we think that you're going to take a weekend to fill out a worksheet, and then all of a sudden you're going to have your frameworks and all this stuff, and you're showing real proof that, no, this took 8 years in the making. And that's oftentimes, is that something you see with a lot of new coaches?
It's a huge, so I actually talk about this a lot. It's a huge problem in the industry. There are a lot of very successful marketing coaches, business coaches that sell fast success, that sell the 6 weeks and 6 figures, like roadmaps and blueprints and things like that. And you said it so perfectly, and I was laughing. Fill out this worksheet and then you'll have it all figured out. I have filled out hundreds of worksheets, and I've done tons of challenges, and it's been a journey. It's been an evolution. And I think that's what people miss out when they are building the business. They forget that it's as much of an internal journey and identity evolution as it is like the actual frameworks and methodologies and structure and more of like the outer, systems and whatnot. There's so much inner identity work that goes along with that. And that's why it takes for a lot of people many, many years to finally feel like they've arrived. It's like the illusion of the overnight success story, right?
Yeah.
Where you hear people who are like, oh, they just blew up overnight, but they don't realize that they've been, 10 years in the making to get to that one thing that finally skyrocketed them to success.
Yeah, I love that. And I 100% agree. It's like it's doing all that deep work behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And there is such an illusion. Walk me through your journey to being here, because I would say you have a pretty successful coaching business, and that's what a lot of people want. Like, how did you get there?
By accident.
By accident, yeah.
Absolutely. So I started my own personal development journey at 17. I was, for many, many years, I was a theater kid. I really thought that I was going off to my dream school was the University of Evansville in Indiana. They have a great theater program. I got in. I thought I was going to go to college, go be the theater kid, end up on Broadway. Like, I had this huge, huge dream. And then I realized my senior year, I didn't have the finances to fund a private education like that. And so, like the summer right after graduation, I told myself, okay, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to go find myself and I'm going to go on this like self discovery journey. And so my journey started at 17. And my first mission was to find a career that made my heart sing. That's what sparked it all. And I actually have an undergrad degree in documentary filmmaking.
Oh, that's awesome.
I spent many years doing all of the creative work and took a lot of like really cool like marketing yourself classes because that's what they teach you in film school and in art school. And just by accident, I was working a terrible dead end job. I was a legal videographer in downtown Chicago. So I was going in and filming depositions and being stuck in like boardrooms for like 12 hours a day, listening to terrible litigation. And one day, one of the witnesses we were supposed to record didn't show up. And so it was me and the court reporter that takes all of the notes. We were just sitting there for 2 hours and we went on the most soulful, like deep conversation I've ever had with a human. And at the end of it, she turned to me and she goes, I think you would make a really good coach.
Mm.
And again, that was, I was on a mission to find a career that made my heart sing. And as soon as she introduced me to the coaching world, it was like I had answered that quest. And I just fell in love with coaching. And then what got me into the business side of helping other coaches was because I have an undergrad in filmmaking and all of the creative work. So all of those nuanced things like the funnels, the landing pages, the systems, the marketing stuff, that came very naturally to me.
Mm.
And it was something that a lot of coaches struggle with. And so that's how I kind of stumbled into my niche.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I want to touch on that moment too, because it's oftentimes this one catalyst moment that could be so insignificant, but also the most significant.
Yeah.
What do you think she saw in you in that moment to say that?
Ooh, that is a beautiful question. The only thing that I can say is depth. I think she saw depth. I'm a very deep thinker. I am somebody who has always had a deep fascination with life, with understanding purpose, with, again, I believe that we all are destined for greatness. I've believed this since I was a little kid. Like I was the 8-year-old that was standing on our back patio holding a plastic water bottle pretending it was an Oscar statue, right?
Yeah, I
So
love that.
I always just believed in greatness and wanted something bigger for my life. And so I always approached life with that sense of curiosity and openness. And so my 20s were very transformational in that they were a lot of self-discovery and kind of figuring out who I am as a person. Um, and I think she just saw that. I think she saw that I was like an old soul and somebody who just went deeper than like a normal person.
I love that. Going into being destined for greatness, I feel the same way. I think we all have this perfect path, but at the same time, we're all imperfect and it might not come to fruition in the way that we think, but there are so many great paths. For the person who doesn't feel like they're destined for greatness, how do you help them overcome that?
Well, I have a signature framework that I use with my clients. I call it the AEIOU framework.
Okay, tell me about
so
that.
remember your vowels. But the first thing is to acknowledge. It's the awareness. So anybody who has like a belief that they might not be destined for greatness, I encourage people to get curious and look at that and say, is that really your belief or a belief that was instilled in you by someone else? So a lot of times what I've learned throughout my own journey and now coaching over 1,000 people, is we carry around a lot of stories and I call it noise. And we carry around a lot of noise that isn't our noise. And so a lot of times when people they feel like they don't have a purpose or they don't necessarily have a mission or whatever, I challenge that because I think a lot of times people are told that. And I call it shrinking. So I really do believe that when we are born with infinite possibilities. We have the whole world at our feet. Like we can go achieve anything. I am such an optimistic, like hopeless, idealist person. But I believe this. And what I've come to discover is most people and society as a whole teaches us to shrink. They tell us to play smaller. And they do this for many different reasons. It comes back to love, safety, and belonging. But, I think for those people that are struggling to find their purpose or find their calling, it's there. But I think you're just trapped in a bunch of noise that is blocking you from being able to even listen to your own heart and your own voice.
I love that. And this is something I've personally struggled with. So I'm curious on your answer on this. Like in my personal life, I got shut down a lot as a kid. And so I did shrink and hide. How, as a newcomer, once you find your mission, how do you overcome that noise inside of your head that's basically like telling you, oh, you're being, too much, you're being self-centered and all of that stuff that maybe you heard that's causing you to kind of stop?
Yep. Well, again, it comes back to the awareness part of identifying, is that actually your voice? Because when you sit with it, and this is the important part, right?
Yeah.
We have to sit with it.
Oof.
It is not fast.
Nobody wants that.
It is no, and that's the thing. Nobody wants to sit with it. Nobody, we just had a snow weekend here in Texas, and everybody was going stir crazy because for 3 days, we couldn't go out and spend money or shop or, like numb ourselves with distractions. Yeah. And so you're forced to stop and slow down and sit with the uncomfortableness of what are these voices and where are they coming from? And where has this shown up over and over and again in my life? For example, I'll give you a really great example here. Recently, I was working with a client and I told this client, I said, for 30 days, you and me, we're just going to do a simple social media challenge. I said, I don't care about your hooks. I don't care about what you're writing. I don't need a call to action. I said, for 30 days, all I want you to do is show up and share something from your soul, right? So I called it the 30-day social media challenge.
Oh, like soul.
Yeah, like soul. Yeah, play on words. I love play on words. And I was like, I'll do this with you. Now, I've been in this world now for 8 years. And I post a lot and I post often and I'm very vulnerable online. But for whatever reason, when I started this challenge with this client, the first night I sat on my couch paralyzed, trying to hit post. And it was so uncomfortable and it was so obvious there was something going on, and I had to sit with that. And I had to acknowledge that in that moment I was shrinking. Something was holding me back. And again, we have to acknowledge, and then we have to get curious. And it's uncomfortable. I call this doing the heart work, and it's not easy. It's not simple. It's not something that, again, you go to one weekend workshop and then all of a sudden you're healed. This is an ongoing evolution. And so my AEIOU framework that I've created is a cycle, And once you get to the U, which is up-leveling your identity, once you up-level your identity, what's going to happen is you're going to start shrinking again. So you're going to go back into the cycle, and then we're going to practice the awareness part again, and we're going to edit the beliefs, and then we're going to integrate those new beliefs, and then we're going to own this new identity, and that's what up-levels your life. And then it's a cycle, and it keeps going over and over and over again. And so it's just the process of sitting in silence and being uncomfortable with yourself and being curious and non-judgmental. And that's the big thing, is because we want to immediately judge ourselves.
That's so true. And it's so easy to judge ourselves. Do you think, is that where imposter syndrome kind of falls into, of shrinking?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. we live in a comparison culture
Yeah.
right now. With the rise of social media, you get online and you are constantly fed stories and videos and everything of everybody else doing all of these really cool things. And then you're sitting here being like, why doesn't my life look like that? So we're constantly comparing. We're constant, I have one of my affirmations that I say a lot is don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody's chapter 21.
Mm.
And I say this because as high performers, and this is very crucial with a lot of high performers, we are constantly comparing ourselves to the greats.
Yeah.
I look at Mel Robbins and I go, why am I not Mel Robbins yet? And I'm like, well, okay, she's in her 50s.
Yeah.
I'm in my 30s. And when you actually go back on her timeline and you look at where she was in her 30s, I'm like, oh, we're right there in the same space. And so again, I'm comparing myself to somebody who's 20 years older than I am, who has had 20 years more of life experience, and I'm expecting to be where they are right now. And so this is why we cannot compare our chapter 1s to somebody's chapter 21. But it's really hard because we are overwhelmed by all of the videos online that are shouting, you should be doing more, and da 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 da. And this is why this is almost like a meditative practice. It's very it's very zenful to kind of sit with yourself and like do what I call the heart work.
Oh, I love that. So tell me a little bit more of that heart work. Like, are there practices that you give your clients to do, or is it not a checklist type of thing?
It's not necessarily a checklist, right? So again, it comes back to when we are trying to build a bigger life, right? And we are trying to build a bigger business or build a bigger body like in the gym. It always comes back to where am I playing small? Where am I shrinking? What's causing this? So again, it comes back to the AEIOU framework of like, once we have the awareness of where we're shrinking and we can identify that and we can sit with that and we can unpack, like, is this my voice that's telling me this? Or is it, my parents' voice? Or for me, a lot of my internal voices were actually kids from like high school because I used to get bullied, right? And not only just bullied, but like I was a very heavy kid growing up. And I used to get physically assaulted when I was in a locker room. People would come up and they would grab at my chest when I was shirtless and changing. And so, again, what do? You start to hunch over, you shrink. And so I spent so much of my time hunched over, shrinking, because I was protecting myself. So again, you have to sit in this uncomfortable space of the awareness and acknowledging without judgment, without shame, without going down a spiral of like, I'm whatever happens there. And then once you can unpack that, you then get to what I call edit the beliefs. So if there's a story that you don't like, you have the power to write something else. Like, we are the authors of our own story. Nobody gets to take that power away from us. We get to pen whatever beliefs we want, right? And so my step 2 is edit the belief. And so I will work with my clients. And, it's interesting. I do business coaching, right? On the surface level, I do business coaching. I help people set up systems and automations, and we do the mechanic side of business, which overwhelms a lot of people. But I also do a lot of identity work with my clients and helping them kind of own their power and step into their full potential as coaches and entrepreneurs and everything like that. And so through this process of remembering your vowels, we edit the beliefs. So I ask them, what do you want to believe instead? And then I say, okay, with that belief, how do we integrate that into your life? So I is integrate. And then our O is own it. So once we start to integrate, and integration is where the systems come in, the behaviors, the habits, everything, they like all of the external operations. And then once you start to put that into place and put that into practice, then you get to own the new identity.
Hmm.
And you get to really stand in that and stand in your power. And then once you're confidence, and confidence comes after we implement things, right? People think you're going to wait for confidence and you're not going to act until you're confident. No, you'll never move anywhere in your life if you wait for confidence. Confidence is a byproduct of action. And so once you're now owning this bigger version of you, you have then officially up-leveled your life, and then the cycle starts over again. Because now you've grown, so you're operating from a new playing field,
Yeah.
and there's going to be other things that cause you to shrink. And
Hmm.
so,
Everything you're saying, the thing that's in my mind right now is like wisdom has fallen on you, and it's just so powerful to just see that, because these principles you're talking about, I've heard with other people who have wisdom. And from your journey, it really sounds like the way that you cultivated wisdom in your life was by being curious and doing that hard work.
yeah.
So with these clients, because you're in business, and I know most of this we've talked about not the business. So, but that really shows of like you're
Yeah.
selling them what they want, which is
Yeah.
when they come to you, what are they actually wanting?
Oh, well, the biggest thing is they're wanting to make money.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
You don't get into business to be a broke coach, right? You
Yeah.
don't get into coaching and here's the thing, most coaches aren't actually driven by the income, they're
Mhm.
driven by the impact.
Yeah.
And so a lot of coaches that I work with, they're like, I just, I want to make more impact.
Mm.
Impact and income go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of people that I work with, they come in because they're struggling to articulate who they are
Mm.
as a coach. They're struggling to feel like they have a cohesive message. They're struggling with the back end mechanics, And I have my three buckets, the three M's: your message, your mechanics, and your marketing. And that's the backbone of Systemize Your Soul. And of course, throughout all of that, we are doing the identity work, which I think separates me from a lot of other business coaches, in that most business coaches are very action oriented, and I'm very integrative, meaning like I'm going to
Mm.
up-level your identity so that the systems work for you instead of against you.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that because it's so true. And like one of my business partners, he is the same way in talking about like when you're a coach and any type of business is just diagnosing the business owner.
Mhm.
Most businesses are broken when the business owner is broken. So I love
Mhm.
that because that's probably why so many coaches are ineffective. They're
Yeah.
not focusing on the person in front of them. I love that.
Yeah.
When you have these breakthroughs with these clients, like what results have they seen by doing that identity shift and the heart work? What level of impact do they get? And what have those transformations looked like for them?
Well, it goes way beyond
Yeah.
income, right? Like, again, income is the byproduct
Yeah.
of owning your identity, right? And so all of my clients, they're now owning their message in a way that is so embodied, and their brilliance is just kind of shining through them,
Mm.
right? So they've gone from being a coach to now being a thought leader,
Mm.
right? So it's really about the elevation side of things. And like yesterday, one of my clients tagged me in a video, and we had worked for many, many months on taking her message and what she does with her clients, and then putting it into like a solid framework and a system and everything like that. And she tagged me in this video, and in under 3 minutes, and I've never seen this from her before. She just was so clear in articulating who she was,
Mm.
what she does, how she does it, who she does it for, and why she's the perfect person to be doing this work. And that gives her a level of magnetism
Mm.
that doesn't come from just marketing strategies, right?
Yeah.
That comes from integration and from owning your identity. There are so many coaches in the world. Like, I just read a statistic not too long ago. I think here in the United States, there's over 225,000 people who identify as coaches, and there's only about like 1% of those coaches that are actually succeeding in their businesses. And that got me questioning why. You know, what separates, I call it the brilliant but broke coach,
Yeah.
from the other category, which is like the mediocre millionaires. These are the coaches that know who they are and know what they're doing. And they may not even be the best in the field, but they're so confident in who they are that just like creates a natural magnetism that brings people in.
Hmm.
And so again, the income is a byproduct of your identity.
That's so true. I like that mediocre millionaire. And I
And you've seen
yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
You're laughing, but you've seen them
Yeah.
all over social media, and you're like, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, but yet they're bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars, in their businesses. And then you've got somebody over here who is completely brilliant, but is just so overwhelmed by the noise and the scarcity and so much fear that it just, they're just like struggling to like capitalize off of their brilliance.
Hmm. How do you help somebody that is that broke but brilliant coach? I know it is in the heart work, but what are those like common threads?
Well, the first thing is getting crystal clear on the message they are there
Yeah.
to share. So many brilliant coaches are like too brilliant, right? And
Yeah.
this is probably their kryptonite,
Yeah.
is that they know too much. They know way too much. And what happens is they try to pack everything into like one social media post. So I'm all about simplicity. I am all about, hey, let's scale back to create even more impact.
Mm.
I'm a minimalist,
Yeah.
like in life. Like I really believe in the minimalistic like lifestyle. And I bring that into my business coaching too, with like, okay, let's scale this back. Let's not try to pack all of your brilliance into one post or one idea. So
Yeah.
helping them scale back so that it really shines. But, most coaches, again, they struggle with their messaging. They don't know who they are specifically talking to. The mediocre millionaires, they know exactly who they're talking to. They talk to one client with one problem and they have one solution to offer. It's simplicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, the brilliant but broke coaches, they have like 14 different lead magnets. And you're laughing because
this is me.
because it's probably you,
Yeah.
because it was me too,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I sat there for years going, why can I not make money in this business? And it was like, oh, it's because I'm all over the place. And it's because and this is the thing about personal branding that is really hard. As coaches too, you are taking your whole lived experience and trying to funnel that in to one clear idea, one clear offer, one clear pathway. And it's overwhelming. And it takes somebody who understands the depth of an individual in order to help them get to that place of articulation. And so for the messaging, I've created what I call the 9 M's. I'm very big with alliteration, if you can't tell.
No, it's good.
Because it's what helps me remember
Yeah.
things, and it's easy, right? And so I created the 9 M's and it's a very simple exercise that I walk my clients through. And I ask them, there's 4 M's that are focused on them, 4 M's that are focused on their ideal client, and then 1 M that is focused on the world.
Mm.
And the 4 M's that are focused on the coach, that is, what is the one message that you want to share with the world? That, like, if you could get on a stage and just talk for 15 hours, what do you really want to share as a coach? What is that one message? We distill that down, and then I ask them, okay, with that message, what is the larger movement that you want to build? Because coaches build a movement. They don't just, their work is not just selling a program. They're building a movement, a community of people that are going to rally behind them, right? That's the Mel Robbins, the Tony Robbins, the Jay Shettys. They've created movements.
Yeah.
you know? And then from that, we look at their message, their movement, their mission. What is their mission, their larger mission as a person
Mm.
in this world? And then what is their magic? So what do you do as a coach that is different than all of the other 225,000 coaches that are out there in the world?
Yeah.
Right? And this is the really powerful part. Everybody has magic. There is something that you do that I can't do.
Yeah.
And that is that, like, finding that magic, that is what creates the elevation. And then we focus on the 4 outer M's, which are their client focused. And I do this exercise and I ask them, okay, imagine your ideal client is trying to summit a mountain. What mountain are they climbing? This is what the client is trying to achieve, right?
Yeah.
So, like, lose 50 pounds, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, that's always the easiest one to go with. And then, so we identify, like, what is the mountain? What summit is their ideal client trying to scale? And then I ask them, okay, what is the monster? Like, think of the Yeti that is getting in the way of them reaching the top of that summit. And a lot of times the monster has to be systemic. It's got to be bigger than just like, oh, fix your macros or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so it's usually like, if it's somebody trying to lose weight, it's usually like diet culture or something. Like, we get very specific with each client. And then I ask them, okay, what are the minions that are also getting in the way? And the minions are the little things that people are doing that they think is helping them get to the top of the mountain, but are actually sabotaging them.
Yeah.
You know? So for me, like, in my clients are always trying to post on social media, but until they have a proper message, posting on social media makes no sense, right?
100%.
So
Yes.
it's like all the different content strategies without having a clear message. That's one of my clients' minions. And then the final M is, I tell them, okay, now I want you to imagine that you are a Sherpa and your job is to guide the client up the mountain. How are you getting there? What is your map that's going to get the people to summit the mountain? And the map is just their methodology, but it's a very creative way to kind of look at identifying the message. And once we go through this exercise and they identify the 8 M's, and then that last M is the mystery, which is the universal alignment piece, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is not, we don't know when our message is going to take off. We don't know, how that's going to look, but it's just our job as coaches to continue to show up and share the message that we were given to put out there in the world. And then let the mystery of the universe kind of do its thing. So that's the 9th M, is the mystery. But once we identify those 8 M's, they have the clarity they need to then go build the back end mechanics that allow them to spread the message.
I love that. And it's so true, because I just look like I'm somebody who created like 10 different offers like within a couple months, and I was like, why is nothing working?
Yeah.
So it's so beautiful, because it really is that way of, on the social media side, I help a lot of people with their social media, and I look at them and I'm like, why are they not posting about this one thing? Because they haven't identified that that's their magic that they should be posting about.
Yeah.
So I love that. With these monsters and these minions, because I really and the magic, really. Like, okay, so you identify them, but have you ever had a client who misidentifies their first M's within themselves?
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
How do you deal with that?
This is why you have to work with a coach, right?
Yeah.
Because your coach is going to see something that you can't see.
Yes.
And so, again, I am very much, all of my sessions are co-creations, right? And again, this is actually my own magic, is being able to see the brilliance in people and then help them take their big abstract ideas and turn them into very clear systems, structures, wording. The biggest thing for a lot of people is finding the words, to describe, what is, like, and I will tell them, I'm like, for your message, just like word vomit,
Yeah.
and then let me do my thing, my magic, and take your word vomit and turn it into something really beautiful.
Oh, I love that. I feel like we have so many similar things. I call it the brain dump.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's how I get people to write their books, because
yeah,
it's like, yeah, you have to get it all out.
yeah,
Because if you don't, you're filtering yourself.
yeah.
So with messaging, I feel like a big issue that a lot of coaches have is they can get people to, they might get the attention. And then it starts to be the rest of the funnel, like the website.
Hmm.
I feel like the website is where a lot of people get stuck.
Well, yeah. And the reason they get stuck is because they think they need to prioritize a website when
Mm.
they actually need to prioritize one strategic funnel.
Oh, what is that strategic funnel?
So there's
Tell me.
actually it kind of
Yeah.
depends on the type of coach.
Okay, yeah.
And because um each type of coach, like there's a different strategic funnel for a life coach versus a health coach versus a business coach, right? So like for business coaches, VSLs are very powerful. That's a video sales letter, if you're not familiar with the term.
Yeah.
A video sales letter is a very strategic funnel that works for business coaching
Mm.
versus a life coach. And you got to think about the ideal client that's coming into your world, right? Somebody who's investing in life coaching, they're having to do a lot of soul searching. They're having to sit with the uncomfortableness. They don't want to be immediately sold to, right? It
Yeah.
completely like crashes their nervous system and throws, red flags, right? But somebody who's investing in business coaching, somebody who's investing in, okay, you're going to help me make more money by fixing whatever's going on in my business, they can take action a lot faster. And so strategic funnel design is so important. But there are some very like basic, like if you're a life coach, this funnel is a little bit more strategic versus if you're a business coach, this is more strategic. And so I kind of have 3 templates that I use. And then with each one of my clients, I help them customize, because that's another big problem in a lot of like business coaching spaces is you enroll in these really large programs that are cookie cutter,
Mm.
and they don't offer the customization to really match your specific needs as a business owner. They might give you a funnel, but it's usually broken and it usually doesn't have all of the back end automations to support the ongoing operations of that. And it's a cookie cutter template that everybody else who has gone through that program gets.
Mm.
And I witnessed that firsthand because I worked 3 years for a very successful business coach, and it was a cookie cutter operation that
Mm.
did not offer the customization to really, again, help your message and your magic do its job.
So with that type of business coaching, is this, I'm trying to understand parts of the coaching world myself, and I've had people kind of talk about how coaching business can kind of be MLM-y, even though it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Is this like the reselling of like coaching frameworks?
There's a
Is
lot.
what?
There's a lot of that in the
Yeah.
industry where a lot of like business coaches that
Yeah.
coach other coaches are like, oh, I've got all these done for you templates, and here's a whole course, and all you got to do is like add your name to it, and then that's never gonna work, people.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look straight at the camera and
Yeah,
say
please do.
this. That will never work for you because that is not your authentic voice coming through. Like
Yeah.
the cookie cutter, like nothing in coaching should ever be cookie cutter. Nothing in coaching should ever be like a done for you. Like don't just plug it in and start playing. You have to personalize. That's the magic part of coaching. Every coach has something magical to offer to this world. And if you're using done for you cookie cutter templates, you're missing out on infusing that thing with your magic.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. It's just something I've been seeing, and it does drive me up a wall.
And it gets under my
Yeah.
skin because so many coaches, again, you're desperate to create impact
Yeah.
and you're looking for the fastest path. And let me be the first to tell you that the fastest path is laying a strong foundation and then running with that foundation. I call the last M
Mhm.
the running the marketing marathon. It does not end,
Yeah.
and you have to stay consistent long enough and don't pivot, don't change your offer, don't try a new lead magnet, like, because again, I was the one that I have like 20 different lead magnets that are in a folder that I never used. But again, in that process, I was discovering my voice.
Yeah.
And again, that's now what helps me help other people discover their voices faster. But it is like a lot of that done for you content is garbage. It's truly garbage. And you can use, and I shouldn't say it's all garbage, but you can use it as like inspiration, but you have to be able to put your own words
Mm.
behind the templates.
Yeah, because we all are so unique, and that's really like what I believe too, of like we're all here with a unique purpose.
Yeah.
If you copy somebody else, you're never gonna find your purpose.
Yeah.
I love that. With the, because I haven't heard the broke brilliant coach before. I really like that term, because that's been a lot of like my life, and I've seen that just with a lot of other people too, that I've been working with recently, where I'm like, how do people not know about you? But how, I guess, like, what's your biggest advice for that type of person to get out of that creative loop, or out of that getting out of your head?
Well, to get out of your head, it does require silencing the noise.
Mm.
It
Yeah.
really does. You need to be unplugging from social media.
Oh,
You
yeah.
need to put down the self-help books and start writing your own. Because you finally get to a place where you're okay, let me illustrate this with like a story. So last week I went to an event and I was sitting in the audience, and it was the first time where I was frustrated being in the audience. And I say this because what they were teaching is the stuff that I help my clients do. And I was like, I do this better. And I'm not saying this from
Yeah.
a place of ego. I'm just saying this from a place of like certainty, right? Where it was like, okay, I know my brilliance, right? And you know your brilliance. And when you have that brilliance, stop second guessing yourself. Like, this is the biggest
Mm.
thing. It's like, I don't know how many times I have in the past created offers, created material, created all of this stuff, and never ran with it.
Mm.
Because, you know, I would hear something else from over here and be like, oh, I got to add that, or I need to
Yeah.
build the app first. And it's like, an app for your coaching business is so far from like the starting point, right? Like, everybody's like, I can't be a real coach unless I have an app first. And I'm like, yeah, but most coaches start one-to-one, and you do the unsexy, I call it the unsexy work of like going out and networking and sharing your message and things like that. And again, that's what keeps the brilliant coach broke, is that they just keep pivoting and perfecting and polishing, and they never give themselves enough time and consistency to see the compounding effects of that.
Mm, that's so how, so say you're one of those coaches that you've built a lot of different programs that could be connected,
Mhm.
but maybe in the back end, which one which one would you, how would you help somebody pick the one to go with?
Well, we usually, and I hate saying this, but
Yeah.
we usually scrap it all and
Oh,
start over.
yeah.
But when I say that, I don't mean like all of that goes in the garbage.
Yeah.
We pull from all of their collections of work, right?
Yeah.
And this takes skill. This takes like a special person to be able to audit somebody's life's work and then go, okay, here's the central themes.
Yeah.
Here's what's coming through this. And again, this is why it's bigger than a coaching business, right?
Yeah.
When you are building a personal brand, you have like the business side of that brand, and then you have your like thought leadership side
Mm-hmm.
of the brand, and the how does my one core message feed into all of the other lanes of my work.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Sneezing.
Um, and so it's doing an audit of the content and going, okay, we can use this here. We can plug this in as a potential upsell. So again, it's understanding funnel design and the buyer psychology, and then being able to say, okay, you created this, let's use this here.
Mm.
And then let's plug this into here, and let's put this into a content hub,
Yeah.
And so again, it's through strategic design, but in order to do that strategic design, you really have to get to know the client and what is their story and what is their larger mission.
Oh, I love that. And it's so true. Like what everything that you're saying, it really does require somebody outside of you because you can't
Mm-hmm.
see
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
if you don't have a mirror in front of you. You kind of act as that
Yeah.
mirror. I love that.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that mystery